Welcome to the Sacred Rebellion, the space where truth isn't filtered, sovereignty is sacred, and a rebellion, it's a return to self. This isn't just a podcast, it's a remembering. We are here to break the trance of comfortability, reclaim our gifts, and rise as the embodied rebels we were born to be. Here we journey with the wild hearts, the way showers, and the visionaries who choose their truth over comfort, their mission over fear, and their souls over the system. This is where the coded ones come to speak, the ones who didn't fit in because they were never meant to, and the ones who turned their pain into power and their story into their medicine. So drop in, take a breath, and let's remember who we are, one sacred rebellion at a time. Welcome back to the Sacred Rebellion, the space where sovereignty leads, systems are questioned, and the cosmic truth, it always finds its way home. Today on the Sacred Rebellion, Chrys, an ascended astrologer, shamanic healer, and multidimensional mentor whose work bridges astrology, mysticism, and ascended technology. His devotion to unseen started early. Witches, Native American teachings, astrology, and the paranormal were his first language. Before stepping into his soul mission, Chrys moves through lifetimes in one life as a musician, an actor, and plant-based health coach, all preparing him for the work offered he does today. After a spontaneous Kundalini rising, multiple awakenings, and a profound shamanic initiation, he walked away from a high-paying corporate career to follow the path his soul has been calling since childhood. Guided by master astrologers, medicine teachers, and business mentors, he trained for years in psychic development, shamanic healing, and astrology mastery. Today, Chrys is known for teaching astrology to thousands of students worldwide, leading retreats and global gridwork activations, and helping spiritual leaders unlock their divine blueprint through the lens of ascended astrology. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that awesome introduction. I feel like Winifred Sanderson from Hocus Pocus, where I'm just like, thank you for that marvelous. And I'm like, I should sing a song now.
I know. I would love that.
But when you put it the way you did, it just feels like a good reminder. Sometimes when we do these podcasts, it's like, wow, we really are doing all these things. We just become so immune, or it just becomes so normal that we're pulling codes and downloading new systems of astrology and doing grid work on sacred locations that you forget how special it is, and you forget how far you've come, because our mission is constantly developing and evolving and new things are coming in. So you forget, like, if I stopped now and looked back at everything I've done in this process, it's been really beautiful. And the way you put it, it's like, I feel almost very satisfied. We're not done, but I feel like when we use the word mission, I really feel like I know what that is and that I'm on that mission. And it feels really good to have that, because many light workers are still locking into that, and the mission will evolve. But once you've fully locked in your codes and the mission is in place and you feel strong in that, there's such a current that takes you. And so when you were reading that, I also realized, wow, just how multidimensional all this sounds. But the work that I do really falls under the umbrella of Chiron, and that's Chiron with a Y, not an I. And Chiron, the archetype is with a Y, is the shaman or the rainbow bridge, not the wounded healer. But the entire Chiron archetype, whether it's with an I or a Y, what lives in that archetype is music, the arts, but mostly plant medicine. Chiron was a plant medicine healer. He was a teacher. He was a mentor. He was a star diviner and an astrologer. He made plant essences and was an herbalist. Basically everything I've done, he was interested in. The arts, music. He was very cultured. He was the only of the centaurs that was cultured and gentle and wise and not savage and primal. And so when you look at the work I do, if you understand the Chiron archetype, then you understand the work that I do. Even down to, helping people with their business. It's mentorship. It's guiding. So although it feels all over the place for light workers who have lots of different codes that are trying to come together in something very unique, look at what archetypes you embody, being Chiron, because I have Chiron conjunct my ascendant. For those of you who aren't aware, that means your rising sign. There's a planet that's sitting in the same spot, which means I embody that archetype. And so when I look at my life, I look at the blueprint of my chart and say, I'm supposed to embody the wounds and the trauma. Yes. And that definitely is there. The triggering is there, but the healing gifts and the codes, and Chiron is a matrix disruptor. He disrupts this whole matrix And that's what I'm here to do. And that's why he, in our system, rules the zodiac sign Ophiuchus, which is the 13th. Thank you for bringing all that together in such a beautiful biography, because it really spoke to Chiron as a whole archetype rather than this fragmented thing. It all comes together in helping you ascend the matrix and tap out.
Yeah, yeah. And I really love how you never once said in your entire explanation of that you were escaping the matrix, that you're breaking the matrix. And I think there's a key to that, because that's something I've learned this year, is that we can't fix a system that's broken, but we can break a system that's broken and rebuild one.
Yeah.
We can't run by escaping and saying, I don't want to be here, or I don't want to be involved, or that's too matrixy for me, or whatever. The thing is when you fix a system, you essentially have to shatter the glass first and then create art from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want everyone to know, even the word we used, escape, would not be meaningful because it would imply running away. Basically, it would imply giving up. And even though we are escaping a false matrix, that is true. What we're
100%.
actually doing is ascending a matrix, because basically the 5D is a matrix.
Mhm.
Okay, so to use the term the matrix for the 3D false matrix, we all know what we mean by that, but now let's elevate the conversation and bring each other into a greater awareness. And I'm looking into the camera at all the people listening and watching. Let's all bring this just into a greater awareness around, we live in a divine matrix, and inside of that divine matrix, there is a copy or a synthetic false AI, artificially intelligent overlay matrix that is pulling from a dead light void matrix. And so I want everyone to realize the reason we have to ascend this is because we don't get out and go somewhere. We take the reality that we have right now and we raise its vibration with us. That's what people, they think the fifth dimension is in a trap door somewhere, and I'll get there through some easy retreat. The medicine will get me there quicker. Or I'll look at someone else's work that they downloaded, and I'll just copy them and use their codes to get where I'm going. They'll learn, right?
Mhm.
But we're all trying to do this, but we feel like there's some easy way to get there, some quick way to get there, when it's already here. Look at all the green and all the leaves on the screen right now, okay? There's a reason that nature is green, and there's a reason the heart chakra is green. The fifth dimension is already here because you have a heart chakra, and the fifth dimension is already here because this planet is fifth dimensional, and there is an overlay on top of it that we call the false matrix. And guess who the creators of the false matrix are? You. I'm getting
Yeah.
passionate. So, are you the architect and the designer? No, you are not. And I want
Mhm.
everyone to understand that this isn't scary, okay? And that not all reptilians are bad, and not all the Alpha Draconian reptilians are bad. But I want everyone to really understand you're living in a matrix that was designed for a specific purpose, and you were genetically mutated at one time, messed with, okay? I would call it a mutation, to turn off your DNA strand. They say you have 12 DNA strands. You do not. You have 13. Okay, 13 is the code. There are 13 zodiac signs in ascended astrology, but the 13th sign just represents a 13th energy to remind us as an awakener point that 13 is the code we need to reach for, not 12. And that's why the Illuminati and the reptilians and the New World Order initiates love the number 13, because it's the divine matrix disrupting code. They like to stand at the doorway of the exit of the false matrix and claim it as the entrance to hell. Don't go here, because
Mhm.
then you'll be free as a soul and you won't be caught in our reincarnation trap. I do want to preface this before we go any further that if anyone is ever triggered by what I'm saying, fear by what I'm saying, that isn't my intention. So know that that's not my intention by sharing this. It has helped me to know this information because I at one time was a spiritual bypasser who did not want to admit that there were reptilians and satanic ceremonies, and just absolute wild false matrix shit happening here. I didn't want to admit it. And I felt like it wasn't my place. I was meant to work in the light. And when I knew the whole time I was a shadow worker, and as I fully stepped up into my mission, and as I decided to step into my shamanic work, shamans or healers of that nature, gatekeepers, if we want to use the term shaman or an archetype like that, we are dealing with someone who straddles the tightrope between the darkness and the light, the living and the undead. And so for me to step up into that role, it revealed more of my shadows. It also helped me to lock in, and this is for many people listening, that some of us healer archetypes are meant to be an angel and a devil in one person. And as Sun in Gemini and Mercury in Gemini, FM3, this is when I'm going to start fucking people's worlds up.
I love it.
What? When I say FM, I'm referring to the false matrix. When I say AM, I'm referring to the ascended matrix. When I say PM, I'm referring to the personal matrix. Basically, what that means is your house system, PM, your ascended matrix, which is the constellations that are up there, and then the false matrix zodiac, which is a made-up construct that we say begins on March 21st or March 20th.
Mhm.
It's made up, okay? And it's based on the ascended matrix, but it's not. It's time-based, it's loop-based, it's Saturnian. So there's density levels. In my false matrix chart, I have Sun in Gemini, FM3. But the Sun was not in Gemini at the time of my birth. It was in the constellation of Taurus, AM, ascended matrix archetype 2. So we all have to look at our chart as a Russian doll or layers of frequency, right? You have the bass, you have the strings, you have the percussion, you have the woodwinds. So the 3D or tropical zodiac will be your most false matrix expression. And then you have the input from the constellations that have come in, but that really affects your plasmic or crystalline light body in 5D. So as we awaken, your ascended matrix or true sidereal chart will start to become more resonant. But right now, the average person will read their false matrix or tropical zodiac. For instance, you have Sun in Libra, AM7, and Scorpio, FM8. Right. It was Scorpio season in the false matrix, but the Sun was actually in alignment with the constellation of Libra at the time of your birth.
Okay.
So it's not that one is right and one is wrong. They're working together. But if you ask anybody, they're going to resonate with their 3D false matrix tropical chart more than their ascended matrix because it's denser and it's been more programmed. And we've also embodied those traits and patterns for all these years. So when people say, when I have my awakening, will I start to become like my ascended matrix chart? Yes, but slowly. And you'll never not be your 3D chart. It's so imprinted, but you can collapse the duality. That's the thing I want people to understand. Having Sun in Gemini, FM3, means that I have the ability to embody duality here because it's master of duality. But I had to realize that that's not the direction we're moving in. We're moving in the direction of unity consciousness. That's what fifth dimensional or fifth density is unity consciousness. And I said, well, that means that everything needs to be collapsed from the shadow side of Scorpio and the light side of Scorpio now has to become one archetype. Right. And that's the ascended matrix Scorpio, AM. Okay. And so that has a higher frequency to it. So when someone says, oh, my Sun is now in AM8, I was Sagittarius, FM9. But now that I'm AM8, I'm going to become jealous and vengeful and dark and shadowy. And I said, no, AM8 does not have those types of qualities like FM8 does. So the whole idea of astrology has to be re-understood. And ascended astrology is dangerous because it fucks with one of the organisms that is one of the most revered organisms in the entire spiritual world. Can you tell me what that is, Michelle?
Fungus.
No.
No, I was going to say mushrooms.
No. I should have said it differently. When I said it's the word organism.
Okay.
What planetary body do I fuck with the most? And when I say fuck with, I don't mean like love. I mean push back against. Do you know?
I don't.
The moon.
Yes, I did know the moon. Yes, the
moon.
The satellite.
The satellite, the spaceship that you all think I'm crazy for calling it a spaceship. When I think you're crazy for believing that synthetic stardust made into craters only on one side of it to give the appearance of it being a natural body is it's actually fooling you. And also people are not going to like this conversation, just as I didn't. I have Cancer rising FM.
My 3D. I'm a Cancer rising in my 3D.
That means that we're very connected to the moon because Cancer is ruled by the moon in the 3D system.
Oh, okay.
It's not in ascended astrology. It's ruled by Gaia, the planet you're standing on that you call Mother Gaia, home. All those Cancerian archetypes of home and mother and connection and family and roots and ancestry, why does that have anything to do with a metallic, hollow mind control satellite?
I don't know. I've never really understood that.
And that's just all I'm doing is bringing this up in conversation. I sound really confident, and I am, but
Yeah.
that's just
No, I
because I
love
have a
it.
lot of Leo FM5. I have a
Yeah.
stellium and Leo in my chart, so you're sensing that.
I
But
love it.
honestly, I just want to bring it up in conversation for shits and giggles. Let's just
Yeah.
look at it that way.
Yeah.
And what I want people to also understand is that in this system, it's going to cause them to come out of their binary code, because traditional astrology is built into a 12-6-6-6 system. Okay. And when you introduce a 13th energy, you knock the whole thing off. Okay. It
Mhm.
becomes not as symmetrical as it was, and the golden ratio knocks off. And when you disrupt the golden ratio, you disrupt physical reality. Okay?
That makes sense to me.
So what I want people to hear is that in ascended astrology, because I have Sun in Gemini and I have Gaia, my Gaia sign is in Ophiuchus, because you have your Earth has a sign in your ascended astrology chart, and I have Chiron conjunct the ascendant. It just looked like to me at some point, I'm here to disrupt the matrix. Okay. And it sounds pretty cool to do that. Let's do it. And so I said, I have to change something about astrology, because I was an astrologer for years.
Yep.
Since I was 16, I've been studying astrology. But then I realized it's working, but it's not helping anyone ascend or get out of the matrix or lock into something new. It's actually helping them lock in to more programming here. And as a moon child, Cancer rising, I said, you're not going to mess with my mother moon, I said. And so it took me a few years I had to read a few books, watch a few documentaries, do some math in my head. And I said, how come we are one of the smaller planets in our solar system, but we have the largest moon? Well, because humans are here, and God put humans here, and God wants the moon to be here. We could end the podcast right now if you want to on that. Or we
No,
can
let's keep going.
or we can look at the other moons that are misshapen because they're natural moons. Jupiter's moons are smaller than ours. So let's be clear that something's off with that. There's also something off with the fact that you never see the dark side of the moon, because the moon never turns. You never ever see the other side of it. It's the only celestial body in our solar system that doesn't do that doesn't spin on its axis in the same way, so that we can see multiple sides of it. That was done on purpose. It is a spaceship. It is hollow. It is full of quantum computers and mechanisms and slaves and minds and all kinds of stuff. So when you all give your power away to the moon, you are feeding a dark feminine program, a matriarchal program, one that many of you listening are actually a part of and don't realize it, because you're part of the agenda now to dismantle the patriarchy and now install a matriarchy, which is false matrix as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What we need to do is bring actual equality and unity into the conversation, right? And so
Yep.
astrology even has built into it this proclivity toward now leaning toward this artificially intelligent feminine energy that is inverted and isn't real. Well, the moon reflects the light of the sun. So do you, and so does Earth. There's nothing receptive about the moon just because it bounces the light off of it. Okay.
Yeah, and you can actually even see, if you look at the different bodies and the shadows on the moon, it's essentially all of our continents that are just
Yes, there's a design there. There's a
it's
very specific
reflective.
thing that's happening, and it's not done organically. And that's what I had to let people know, is that in many cultures there is a phrase that they have which represent or translates to the time before the moon. So I had to say, what would it be like if we had no moon and we were in fifth density, and the only influence we had astrologically was coming from those constellations and the photonic light coming from those constellations? And that's your ascended matrix chart. Because in our system, we don't read the moon as your emotions, as your inner needs, as your connection to your family. That's all false matrix BS. The moon is your most false matrix subconscious programmed self. It is the subconscious reactions which cause emotional reactions to happen. That's why the moon has been linked to emotions, because it is your subconscious. It is a siphoning tool that is able to program you through your subconscious, and anything related to the moon, including Rahu and Ketu, the north and south node, and Black Moon Lilith, are all part of that lunar matrix program. So when people say, I have North Node in Capricorn, FM10, me. My destiny is to start my own business and build an empire. No, it isn't. That's what your karmic reincarnation trap lunar program has destined for you. But in our system, you get to choose even beyond that. And I respect Jan Spiller's work in her book, Astrology for the Soul. There have been many astrologers who have come before me who have done incredible work at dissecting, analyzing, and reimagining false matrix astrology. What they did not do is ask what happens when we move into fifth density and the rules of mathematics and physics changes, and why are we bound to this, and where is our soul sovereignty? If you look at the constellations, there's actually like 17 or 18 constellations which touch our ecliptic line, which is the line that we say is the band of energy where the zodiac is.
Right.
So if you travel from Aries to Scorpio, suddenly something happens. The scorpion tail dips down really low, way under the ecliptic line. And there's another constellation poking its whole body into the ecliptic line, and his name is Ophiuchus. And he's the serpent bearer. He's the resurrector. He is a healer, a master shaman. He's the medicine man based on Asclepius in Greece. Ophiuchus comes after Scorpio because Scorpio represents death, not resurrection or rebirth. Ophiuchus is rebirth. They're actually two different energies that were grouped into one so that you would forget and think that death and rebirth happened just in the physical realms, rather than Ophiuchus coming in and saying, there's a death to the ego. Can you now let the soul in? And can the soul drive from this point forward? Because if you skip from Scorpio to Sagittarius, you skip the trap door that leads you out of the false matrix. So Ophiuchus must be brought into the conversation, because he is not the 13th, that doesn't mean that he's now the 13th house, but there is a 13th house. And we were talking about this earlier, Michelle, when you mentioned the void. There is something beyond the 12th house. And I asked Spirit what that was for 6 years. And I got the download last year in 2024 after I moved to California. I finally fully downloaded what it was. And I downloaded it years ago, but it fully locked in, and even the Great Mother herself appeared to me. And the 13th house is the whole chart, but it exists outside of the chart. And 12th house is where everything dissolves. Pisces is where everything dissolves and returns to spirit. The 12th house is the 0-point field, the womb of Source herself. It's dark matter, empty space, black holes, it's infinite potential.
Yep.
So there is something beyond Pisces, and it's not Ophiuchus, because Ophiuchus is over here. What he's doing is representing a glitch in that matrix carousel ride that you've been on, so that you can remember the 13th house and the 13th sign, which is your unique soul blueprint archetype. That is more unique than any of these zodiac signs put together, and however many groups of 12 and 6 you can. So when you work in the 13th house, what you're working with is the energy of the Great Mother, and what ayahuasca told David Icke was the dazzling darkness. Okay. Yeah. Where you go, where everything begins, when you return to source, truly, not when you go into the upper realms, when you become an Arcturian princess. I'm talking about when you merge with source fully again, it is nothing but nothingness.
This I know.
That's what makes people afraid to work with plant medicine. That's what makes people afraid of spirit. That's what makes people afraid, because their ego needs everythingness to attach to know what it is. And source already knows what it is. So it needs nothing. But it can feel very lonely there in the 13th house. So we get to have all of this as well. So I want everyone to see Metatron's cube as the zodiac chart rather than that wheel. See it as Ophiuchus in the center, and then Aries and Libra together, Scorpio and Taurus together, Gemini and Sagittarius together, because they're the same energy. Scorpio and Taurus are the same energy, just split into a duality. Taurus is I have, Scorpio, I surrender. Aries, I am, Libra, we are. They're the same energy, just expressed in an opposite way. So what I'm asking you to do, just like Metatron's cube, if you take the spheres on the outside and you collapse it into the inner spheres, now you only have 7 spheres. And those 6 spheres around the center will collapse into the center again, just as you did when you were a one-celled organism and you became this whole body that are trillions of black holes you are walking around here. You are a giant vortex and you have forgotten. And so what ascended astrology is doing is not trying to tell you what your personality is like. It's trying to give you an exact breadcrumb trail out of the matrix, out of the false matrix, out of the versions of you that are no longer serving you, and out of the aspects of you that are actually representative of a lower aspect. And so if you are given a blueprint and shown this is what you are becoming, you're now going to transition into the Sun in Libra AM7 energy. And now you can consciously choose that Sun in Libra AM energy. And now you will, kind of like a current, you'll catch the wave of 5D easier through your own blueprint. Okay. So it's giving us tools to make it easier to tap out and tap into who we really are. And there are many aspects of the ascended astrology chart, for specifically in ascended astrology, that triggers people because it goes against traditional astrology, it seems. And we're not trying to do that. I'm not trying to disrupt anything. I have to, because there is a flaw in the system. You all are okay with astrology staying the way it is for the next 13,000 years, and I'm not. Okay? Because astrology actually doesn't tell us how the planets influence us. It's showing us how the planets and us are all influencing each other and existing with each other. You can also read astrology charts the way that you read tea leaves at the bottom of a cup. It's very interpretive. It's very symbolic, as above, so below. What if the planets are moving because we keep living life, not the other way around? What if the sun is releasing those solar flares as a direct representation of our own upgrades as humanity on this planet, not us getting the upgrade from the solar flare? What if that's very Saturnian, very 3D for the solar plasma to come here, upgrade me rather than I've upgraded, so now I'm ready to receive more light? Soul, don't we call sun SOL, solar? And I want to remind everybody of this. Your higher self is the sun, the soul, that light. That's your consciousness. And then your Gaia sign is your physical body, which is holding that consciousness. Okay. Your rising sign covers all of that. Your every energy in your chart is touched by the rising sign because that's where your soul enters your body.
Yep.
And now we have this thing that isn't made of cheese, but you all are chasing it. And you all really, really feel that when these eclipse seasons happen, that you level up. And I'll tell you, you've leveled up like this many times. It's an illusion. You haven't gotten anywhere, but just like a treadmill, we made you think you did. We also made the projector screens around you look like streets passing by. We've done a really good job at making you feel how constantly you're going through something and leveling up. Anything to do with a new moon, full moon, first quarter moon, fourth quarter moon, you're dealing with a siphoning energy. It is siphoning you. It's drawing upon your old emotional subconscious material to feed its organism. And this is connected to Saturn. Saturn in our chart is the planet of death. Saturn is not structure in Capricorn. Saturn rules in the upper frequency Scorpio AM, the planet of death, the Death Star. It was once a sun. Now it is a gas giant that has died. So it represents death. The rings around Saturn are not natural. Most of it is made from sound waves that have trapped ice crystals and meteorite-like material, and what I'm being shown right now, almost iron, very dense iron material, into its rings and is broadcasting a frequency that scientists can measure goes way beyond our solar system or out through our solar system.
And doesn't iron, because I know in the mystical, like the fairies, iron will actually, it disrupts energy. And from what I understand, when I've channeled like fairy people, is that was one thing moved like Avalon out of its state, was the people that brought iron into that energy, because it actually disrupts the natural form of higher vibrational organic matter and energy. And that's why, they brought iron to essentially go into Avalon and disrupt that, because iron will actually disrupt organic, natural 5D energy.
And it doesn't vibrate with the current alchemy that we're able to do. Now, iron is our 3D earth. The core of it is an iron core. And Spirit showed me years ago, as we ascend and as the planet ascends into Tara or 5D earth, that iron core will turn into a plasmic core or crystalline core, as it is supposed to be. The iron core is only there because of the density of 3D, okay? Now, do you know what else has a lot of iron in it? People are not going to like this, and I won't say very much.
Our water has a lot of iron in it.
Yeah. And I'm sure it does. It has a lot of heavy metals and all
Mhm,
kinds of stuff.
mhm.
Heavy metals are a big thing they love to use
Yep.
because when we are full of heavy metals, we're a perfect match to 5G and dense frequencies. But blood,
Oh, yes, blood has iron as well. Yep.
it's interesting. You have a lot of light workers right now who have a lot of iron issues that are going on because their body's actually transitioning away from needing iron, but we're just in a really long transition period. And so they're having to take supplements to supplement it while also following the fact that they do not want to consume animals anymore. And I won't spend very much time on this because that will get even the most woke spiritual person irritated. And I just don't have time for it. But I want you all to consider that maybe PETA may not be the organism you want to look to for support, but maybe they're not as crazy as you think they are. Okay. And maybe turning the entire planet into carnivorous creatures like the reptilians are, then become more susceptible to reptilian control. Just like when you put reptile venom into a
Yep. Yep.
and you implant reptile DNA into the mass population. I hope that someone watching is like, this guy thinks he knows something and he doesn't, and he's super confident about it. This is what's wrong with spiritual world is you have all these people who have no degrees and they're just channeling all these codes and just saying a bunch of stuff, telling us the world's ruled by reptiles. He thinks he's QAnon or something. That's another thing. Is you have groups like QAnon, which are almost there.
Yeah.
They're correct.
Close.
And then they give you your savior, Lord Trump. And I'll tell you, Trump is a massive matrix disruptor. He has Leo
massive.
rising and Gemini sun. I'm Gemini sun, Leo moon,
Guys,
Leo V.
brings chaos.
There's something he's doing that serves the whole, actually. But don't think for a second that he's not a puppet and being controlled and playing the game with them and has been at the satanic rituals and the parties and on Epstein Island and has worked with some of these alpha draconian 9-foot tall reptoid beings. He has seen shape shifting happen. So please, let's be very clear that even along the way in the spiritual world and the mass media, there are traps that seem like the end point. I reached QAnon and now we have our savior. It's another illusion. It's more truth wrapped in inverted lies or inverted truths.
Yeah, and that's what happens with a lot of things is it's people get caught up in these cult-like followings and they stop thinking. It's like they open themselves and they're able to see things, and then all of a sudden they get sucked back into something outside of you that's going to, quote, save you. And as someone who has left religion, organized religion, ex-Mormon here, as someone who has left Mormonism completely, doesn't believe in any of it, I just want to make sure people understand that, is that when I removed my name, like I was like, oh, I'm not going to remove my
From
name.
the temple.
Church. It's not a big deal. I never went to the temple, actually. I think my guys protected me from that one.
Yeah.
But the fact of it is my husband and I were not married in the temple. We were sinners, right? And so we lived together before we got married. So we were definitely in the, sinner space, right? Which I own that so much because I think it's really important that you really get to know your partner before you spend a lifetime together. I just want to reiterate that as someone who has been married for 16 years and has been with my partner for 18 years. Relationships are literally designed to expand you. They are literally designed to trigger you. They are literally designed for you to be uncomfortable. And if you don't expect that out of partnership, please do not get in a partnership. Please don't. Okay? Because that's what they're
why
there
so
for.
many people, like my parents, love each other to death, they say, but spend the majority of their everyday in separate rooms or buildings.
Right.
Okay.
And my husband and I are like, let's go on a motorcycle ride together. Let's go do things together because he's my best friend.
That's what trust and intimacy is about.
That's exactly right. And so we didn't get there easy. That path was not an easy task. Let me just reiterate that. And the point of it is that I think that a lot of times people have this idea of this twin flame union and how it looks and how it should feel and all of these distortions around twin flame. I am married to a twin flame, and that was the hardest fucking mission I have ever experienced. But I have learned that I am not afraid of the shadow. I am not spiritually bypassing. I am not afraid to go into mother void, okay, and really dive into the stillness of who the fuck I am and be able to create an architectural structure within me. And I can tell you exactly what it looks like, what octave it's at, and how it feels in my system. And I can tell you that's not a lot of spiritual leaders today.
I know. And It's tricky because if we were to create an episode right now about what's happening with the spiritual leaders in the world,
We
we
would
would
be here for
then
hours.
but we would then become a target to other people who have
That's right.
decided we're the spiritual leaders who are talking badly about other spiritual
Mhm.
leaders. This matrix, this gossip matrix, this media matrix, this social media world
Mhm.
is designed to turn. I mean, I've seen so many videos of shamans and healers talking badly about other shamans and healers who are way more successful than them on social media. And maybe they are full of shit. And that's why they have become so successful. You know, I've definitely seen that happen because the mass majority of people who are still asleep need sleepy messages or they're not going to resonate with it, right? So I do
Right.
believe there are light workers out there who are not fully embodied. Maybe I'm
Mhm.
not even fully at my depth of embodiment. We're all where we are, but they are there to give a little bit less of a sleepy message so that those people wake up and then they're ready for an actual awakened message. If we want to look at, I'm using those
Yeah.
words to just make it super simple. It's just really tricky because then it's, are you being pulled into duality? Are you in your heart or are you in your ego? And are you in duality or are you in unity? And
Mhm.
so all of us are doing our best. Am I walking around? I live in Mount Shasta, one of the most spiritual locations in the world. Do I walk around every day with crystals up my butt and look for people to have synchronicities with? No.
That's the perfect analogy.
Well, people are doing some wild things, and I love a good, I
Oh.
love a good crystal up inside of you. Okay, a good yoni moment.
Oh, man. You know
But
what's funny,
I'm not
Chris?
obsessed with it.
If someone walked into my house, they wouldn't even know I'm a spiritual entrepreneur. It just looks like a
Right.
normal house. Like, I live a normal
I can't
life.
say that, but
I just in my office, totally different story, obviously. I have a lotus
yeah,
flower and it's different
yeah,
vibes. But once you walk in my house, it's like, yeah, you'll probably smell essential oils and some sage. And you'll see that as you walk in. I do have a big rock as you walk in that's specifically designed for grounding energy. Like I'm very intentional with
yeah.
these, but it's not like you're saying, all these spiritual
Well,
things. It's not me. And that's the thing is like make your home a direct reflection of you and
yes.
what that feels like good in your field. And, I love the term, "Is it just not spiritual enough for you?" Because I'm just
And also, what is spiritual? People think,
exactly.
oh, there's a big crystal in the center of the room. This person's spiritual. The most spiritual thing you can do is wave to the deer outside your window. The most spiritual thing you can do is see another light worker struggling in their mission and doing things just for money and going, she's out of integrity. I'm not working with her. Instead of, she's on her way to more integrity or she's in survival mode, right? I'm guilty
Yep,
of it
yep,
because
I'm
I've
guilty
been
of
on the
survival mode.
receiving end.
Yep,
I've not only been in survival mode, but I've also been on the receiving end of people who were loving and also in survival mode and how that took them out of their highest self and have giving grace for that. What would you act like if you were on the verge of homelessness? I have lived in my car. I have had bugs crawling on me in abandoned houses. What would you do in that situation to get out of it? Or what would you do to make sure that never happened again? Right. So you
yep,
do have everyone where they currently are. And I
yep,
don't ever feel like I'll be homeless again, even though I've experienced it,
yeah,
because this is my life and I understand why it happened, but I also see that that was the lesson and I did it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I'm just saying everyone has their lessons, everyone has their karma too. And I look at karma very differently because in Saturn is the lord of karma. And in astrology, we understand that karma is a false matrix program. Once you enter 5D, there is no karma. Not because there's no bad thing, so there's no karma. Yes, but karma is cause and effect, and karma is also a false matrix tether. Karma is a etheric cord that pulls you back into this matrix because your soul experiences no time. So to live 100 lives here is no different than living two, really. For you to, I've had light workers go, I've come back into this realm so many times. I'm just ready to get out of it. And I'm like, well, it's obviously not 5D yet. So maybe that's why you've kept coming back. But why did it take so long? Well, what if all 80 of those lives you've lived from the time of Lemuria until now, what if all of those lives you've lived all individually carried a code where you forgot who you are, forgot who you are, forgot who you are, and then remembered, and then remembered, and then remembered, and then remembered, and then stepped up into that remembrance? You think all this is supposed to happen in one lifetime? That's what I want everyone to hear now. Spirit is coming through so strong, which is why I'm talking so fast. You all have to understand you all are experiencing multiple lifetimes in one in this lifetime because of the ascension process and the timelines that are being collapsed. So many of you all are drawing upon influences, both negative and positive, from multiple lifetime streams that you have within this false matrix. Why? Because you're the one who said, I'm going to heal it. And there's an internet full of people who are saying, I'm going to heal this. So that's going to inspire me to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're drawing it in through your medicine ceremonies and meditations and through leveling up. You think the light from the sun that comes in and activates your DNA is not going to also irritate the iron or 666 code that your atomic structure is made of? So it's going to clear all the things that have connected you to this matrix, not so that you can become an ethereal fairy that flies around the universe. It's so that you choose as a soul where you want to go rather than a soul trap happening, which I used to think was impossible, but now I realize is not. It is very possible because time isn't real. So to trap souls for 13,000 years, there's no Arcturian Galactic Federation that's going to come save us from that. We are the
Amen.
ones who are
Amen.
going to save us from this. And the Galactic Federation, if you want to call them that, or the Andromedans, the Pleiadians, the Antarians, they are here observing. Many of them have come into physical bodies to help with this so that we do have support, but we also have laws here. And one of them is about free will and karma and duality. They have to respect all of that.
Mhm.
So we're on our way out. Things like ascended astrology give you a clue, a hint. It just having your ascended astrology chart read. For me, I tell my readers who also work for me through my site, I tell them, don't treat these ascended astrology sessions as a astrology reading. Look at it as an excuse to tell somebody there's a false matrix and that they have a higher plan, and that's why they're there. Because we're going to get there, but don't spend all this time talking about your Mars is this, and that's why you do, and that's why you take action like this. We can give you that. But let's really get down to where is your Chiron? Where is your soul wound and how are you healing it? And what are your healing gifts? Where are your Ophiuchus placements? Where are your matrix disrupting codes? Right? Where is your moon? What is the part of you that we need to look out for the most? Your moon is the greatest liability in your chart. The moon is the prison of the soul. If you choose your moon and you become your moon, which you will become as you age, it takes over more as you age, you will never hear the subtle whisper of your soul. You will become the false matrix zombie robot that they want you to be, and you will appear to have autonomy. You will appear to want the salty food and the Starbucks. It will feel like a choice, but it's not. There are hundreds of thousands of people on this planet who are not real.
Mhm.
You can call them NPCs. They're simulations, but many of them are clones. And if someone had just said all of this sooner, or if I had gotten to this sooner, it wouldn't have taken me so long to move through all my resistance around it. When Spirit told me that Rihanna was a clone, I didn't know how to handle that. And then when I realized that they're all doing it, I was like, oh, well, then that's not weird.
Yeah.
I thought I was going insane.
Yeah, I bet you did.
And so then I had to let that into my belief systems enough to help other people who were going through the catastrophic results of this mutation of humanity and this converging of AI and technology with the organic human. Because let me remind everybody, you are an angel. You are not all of you are angelic starseeds, okay? Most of you are Earth designed soul energies that wanted to come to the Earth and play. Okay, and now 3D Earth to raise it back to 5D because you think the Andromedans here. I get all spicy sometimes. Okay,
I like
I'm being
spicy.
playful. I'm really not as intense as I'm making it out to be. But do you think the Andromedans are coming here because they just care about you so much? Many of you all are their past lives or other versions of themselves. Also, they see themselves as one with you. Also, do you know what the Ontarians told me one time? The insectoid beings, they look like big ants or big mantis beings.
Well, yeah, I work with mantis beings.
Well, it was very masculine and very direct. And
They
it was
are.
like, if you all don't raise your freak, I asked, why are your two suns so dim looking? Because your matrix is drawing upon our suns to keep it going. So we actually need you to ascend so that you quit messing with our solar system.
Yep.
And I realized not all of them give a shit about humanity the way I thought they did in this loving, romantic way. They love us, but it's not even that personal. It's like you're draining our wattage and we need it back. You're using our Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Yeah. And also we need you to move into this 5D. That's actually my mantis beings. They're the ones that gave me the codes for God Codex was mantis beings.
Yeah, I bet they did.
They
They're
work
extremely intelligent. Like, oh my gosh, it's so up here that feel them here as much,
Nope, but
which
you
can
feel it
scare
here.
us.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah. And they don't work directly through the crown, they work through the brainstem, which
Yeah.
is very interesting. It was that was something as I was moving through my modality was they're like, people think they're downloading information through their crown. They're actually downloading it through the brainstem, which is the nervous system receptor.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a chakra back here too. We don't really talk about
We
it.
don't talk.
See
Yeah.
some chakras everywhere, but there is one back there. And for someone to work specifically through the crown, they would need to come through, a seventh or eighth dimensional field. And many of these beings that we look at, they're not even that high vibrating. Okay, they're still physically holding expression. They're fifth, sixth dimensional, and there is physicality there.
Yes.
So that makes perfect sense to me. Really, at the end of the day, it's about sharing with other light workers what's going on. Let's not get caught in the trap of, oh my gosh, the north and the south node is a dragon or snake eating its own tail. Oh my God, it's a reptilian reincarnation trap. You're meant to know that to wake up from it, not to stew and feel like you live in a prison planet, which you do. It's really hard to wake up and know that you live on a prison planet and in a false matrix and just keep going and find the good in it. It's hard. So I'm going to let people know once you fully lock it in and you see it, some people have been getting to the point of wanting to exit through their own accord. Are we on the same page by what I mean by that? Light workers, many just people in general, and from what they're seeing. And I promise you it's not permanent. I promise you that you can handle it. And I promise so much of it is artificially simulated. Okay. It's not even as real as you think it is. So, but we all have to travel our own individual journey. You're going to have people say, well, how dare you let the evil go on in the world because you know it's an artificial simulation. And it's like, that's not what I'm saying either.
Yeah.
There's so much this or that instead of all of these different options. It's not black or white anymore.
It isn't. And the other thing too is like I had someone today in a session, she expressed how mad she is at God. And the thing is, the one thing as someone who has broke away from religion and then essentially went through a night of a dark soul again, I mean, you're like me. It's like, here we go again. And this one's deeper and this one's more potent. And this one is really going to encompass you, right? And as someone who's been there, the one thing that brought me through this experience in my 2025, the year of the snake, if you want to call it, was the connection with Mother God and Father God. And being able to know that love that's what it is. It's the divine essence of love that each one of us has that blueprint on our soul that that's all we are. We are just love. And we have just simply forgotten those aspects of God frequency that live in each one of our souls that essentially brings us back into creation. And yes, it can be dark and it can be hard.
It will be dark.
Yes. And I've been in those spaces, I've been in the awakening game for a hot minute. I think I was saying today I've been in it since I was 21 and I'm almost 40. So I've got some skin in the game, but the one thing that I have is deep compassion for those who are in the darkness. Yeah. And I'm not afraid to go in their darkness with them and hold them in that space. And I think, Chrys, you can relate this as a shadow worker to a shadow worker, is someone who can straddle that line with just pure fucking love.
And I find a lot of beauty in the darkness, like Balinese people do. The Balinese, everything is checkered there, black and white checkered. And that's also a symbol of Freemasonry and Illuminati and satanic control. And there's some of that going on there, but theirs is a little bit different. It's more like Dorothy's dress rather than a checkerboard. Right? It's more like a overlapping tapestry of black and white. Their divine masculine is all black. Their divine feminine is all white. Very yin yang, and they celebrate the darkness there as true duality. They give offerings to the island demons. Why? To keep them at bay, because they know they exist, and if they participate with them, they'll keep balance rather than those forces causing chaos. There's so many different ways we could look at this, but also there are things in the darkness that are really beautiful.
Right. I agree. Creation is all created in the darkness.
It is created in the dark. And a lot of the things we're calling dark are just dense. We need to start separating those words. Darkness can be a shadow or it can be child abuse, if we want to look at it that way, which is dense, because even it can be done in the light. But it's density, right? It causes shame, depression. It causes an expression of density, right? Rather than it being dark. That way, this side, the yin side here, can get her say without people going, we don't like the dark. Well, then you're not going to get the whole picture.
Right.
And that's what we're really collapsing duality here. And that's what ascended astrology is doing. That's what my medicine work does, because it all brings you back into the heart and sometimes takes you into the upper realms where there is no duality. So you can at least, when someone says unity consciousness, now it's a feeling, not just a concept. Now you have your own direct divine experience. That's why we work with medicines. That's why we get in shamanic spaces with people, go on our vision quests and our journeys to have direct experience with the divine in our inner divine, so that we can actually embody and feel like it's real rather than just something all the spiritual people on Instagram are doing. So many of you all have crystals. You don't know what it does. You don't know where it was bought. You didn't program it. They're sitting in your windows so that you can feel like the spiritual moon child. I know my big 3 hot chick that you want to be. And that's another 3D, very commercial,
Mhm.
go buy the pink and green Wicked t-shirt program.
Yep. Yep. And I agree with the technology of the crystals. And when they are set very intentionally and you know how to program
Gridded.
crystals and they're gridded and they're cleared and you communicate with the consciousness of the crystal,
Yeah.
it changes a lot of things.
I
I think,
also just
yeah.
say, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just have to say this. Please consider, my dear witches, because I am one of you, consider placing your crystals in salt water in the sunlight, not the moonlight. Please do not program your crystals if you feel called. Now, if your guides are saying he's full of shit, worship the moon, do it. I'm saying check in with, are you sure that you don't want to program your crystals with direct light, but you want to program it with light that is bouncing off of metal? Why that? Because it's encoding it with lunar matrix dark feminine energy. So, and I might be dramatizing that a little bit. It's just programming it with a denser frequency, more refracted light. Why are we refracting more light? Let it just be light. Okay. My whole work is to make people question, not to piss them off, but because sometimes those questions breed new answers, and that's what awakening is all about. So
Yep.
let's first start there. But also, I really feel strongly that just understanding the number 13 and knowing the moon as it is and catching your moon activated within your personality and working not against it, but working in the direction of something more aligned with you is going to tap you out of that, instead of going, well, how do we tap out of the matrix? Knowing these things about yourself, being very consciously aware, but also the best way to tap out of the matrix is to get away from a city and go out in nature, because 5th dimensional Earth is right there. The false matrix only exists where there are humans in conglomerations all co-creating that dense hell realm together. Okay. So if you want to remind yourself of what it's like to not have that, go out in nature, because the 5th dimension is in the trees, in the animals, in the mountain, in the stones, because you're touching a planet that existed in 5th density for billions of years, longer than it existed in 3rd density. Go remember. And then you won't have to listen to podcasts at all. You'll download it just as Buddha did, right under a tree.
Well, thank you, Chrys, for coming on the show today. If something stirred in your soul today, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, speak it, and let it ripple. Hit that subscribe button and stay close. The revolution isn't coming. It's already moving through you. Until next time, stay grounded in your truth and rise as the divine remembrance that you are. Have a beautiful day.